The Great Hall of Terminus Prime Station was the largest room Captain Hana had ever seen. It stretched so far that the far walls disappeared into a soft blue mist. Hundreds of alien species filled the seats that rose up like a mountain on every side. Their voices mixed together into a sound like ocean waves. Hana stood quietly behind Ambassador Kang Taesung. Her job was simple: watch, listen, learn. She had been a diplomat for 15 years, but this was only her third time at the Galactic Council Summit. Every time she felt small, not because of the giant room, not because of the strange creatures around her. She felt small because of how they looked at humans. The Vorlek Prime stood at the center platform. His insect body was covered in hard black shell. 6 arms moved as he spoke, and his voice came out like metal scraping on stone. "The matter of the outer colonies is closed," Vorlek Prime said. "The Vorlek Dominion will control the new mining rights. We have held these stars for 40,000 years. Our claim is oldest." Hana watched Taesung. The old ambassador did not move. His face showed nothing. She knew that expression well. It meant he was angry but would not show it. A voice rose from the aquatic section of the hall. High Counselor Mira floated in a tank of blue water. Her body was long and silver, like a fish made of moonlight. Thin arms with webbed fingers pressed against the glass. "The Vorlek speak of 40,000 years," Myra said. Her voice was soft and musical. "But my people swam these stars for 60,000 years before your first egg hatched, Vorlek Prime." The hall erupted with noise. Species shouted their own numbers. 50,000, 80,000, 100,000 years. Each one tried to prove they were older, wiser, more worthy of respect. Hana looked at the human section. 32 representatives from Earth and her colonies. They sat in silence. They had no numbers to shout. Human civilization, by galactic standards, was barely 12,000 years old. They were children in a room full of ancient giants. "Perhaps," Vorlek Prime said, and the hall grew quiet, "we should ask our youngest members what they think." His compound eyes turned toward the human section. "Ambassador Kang, does humanity wish to speak?" Hana felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes. She kept her face calm, just like Taesung had taught her. Taesung rose slowly. He was 62 years old, with gray hair and deep lines on his face. He looked tired. He always looked tired. But his voice was strong. "Humanity thanks the Council for this opportunity," Taesung said. "We have no ancient empire to boast about. We have no great numbers to share. We simply ask to be treated fairly." Laughter rippled through the hall. Not all of it was cruel. Some species found humans amusing, like a clever pet that had learned to speak. Vorlek Prime made a clicking sound that might have been a smile. "Fairly, yes. We shall treat the infant species fairly. When you have lived as long as we have, little human, perhaps then you will understand how the galaxy truly works." Taesung nodded and sat down. His hands rested on his knees. Hana noticed they were shaking slightly. The summit continued for another 3 hours. Hana listened to debates about trade routes, border disputes, and resource sharing. Humans were mentioned only twice more, both times as examples of how young species should behave. Quiet, grateful, obedient. Then something changed. A messenger entered the hall. It was a small floating robot that belonged to no single species. It carried news that all must hear. The robot rose to the center platform and projected a hologram into the air. Hana saw a dead world. Gray rock. No water. No life. But on the surface stood ruins. Buildings that reached toward a dark sky. Structures that looked older than anything she had ever seen. "Deep space probes have found this," the robot announced. "Located in the Forbidden Zone, Sector 7, the area all species avoid by ancient treaty." The hall fell completely silent. Counselor Myra pressed closer to her tank glass. The Forbidden Zone has been sealed for over 200,000 years. No species has entered since the Great Treaty was signed. Until now, Vorlek Prime said. His voice had lost its arrogance. He sounded worried. What species built those ruins? The robot continued its report. Unknown. The writing found on the structures matches no known language in the galactic database. Estimated age of the ruins is between 60 and 70,000 years. Hana felt something cold move through her chest. She stared at the hologram. The buildings were strange, but something about them felt familiar. The way they curved. The spacing between them. She had seen shapes like that before. The precursors, someone whispered. The words spread through the hall like wind through grass. Precursors. The mythical first species. The ones who supposedly created all life in the galaxy before vanishing into legend. Vorlek Prime raised his arms for silence. We must send a research team. This discovery could change everything we know about galactic history. Agreed, Myra said. But who will lead this mission? The debate began immediately. Every species wanted control of the expedition. The Vorlek claimed their scientists were best. The aquatic species said their probes had found the ruins. Others argued about ancient rites and treaties. Hana barely heard them. She was still staring at the hologram. One symbol on the ruined buildings caught her eye. It was simple. 2 lines crossing. A circle above. She had seen that symbol before. She had seen it in a museum on Earth, in a cave in France. Painted by human hands 30,000 years ago. She leaned close to Taesung. Ambassador. I need to send a message to Earth. Priority 1. Taesung looked at her. His old eyes were sharp. You see it too. It was not a question. Hana nodded slowly. I need confirmation. Taesung pressed his hand against her arm. Be careful, Hana. Some truths are dangerous. She left the hall quietly. No one noticed. Humans were easy to ignore. In her quarters, she composed a message using the oldest encryption Earth possessed. It was a code that predated the galactic network. A code that humans had used only among themselves for centuries. She attached images of the ruins and the symbols she had seen. The reply came 4 hours later. It contained only one word. Confirmed. Hana sat in the darkness of her room for a long time. Outside, the council continued to argue about who would lead the expedition. They debated ancient rites and old treaties. They compared the ages of their civilizations, like children comparing toys. They had no idea. Hana thought about the symbol on the ruins. She thought about the caves in France and Spain. She thought about Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built 12,000 years ago by people who should not have had the knowledge to build it. The council thought humans were children. They thought humanity's history began with farms and clay pots. They were wrong. And soon, Hana knew they would learn just how wrong they had been. She looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the Forbidden Zone, the truth was waiting. A truth that humanity had buried so deep that even humans had forgotten it. Until now. The research vessel Horizons Edge moved through space like a silver fish swimming through black water. Dr. Park. Ji Young stood at the observation window and watched the stars slide past. Each one was a sun. Each sun might have worlds. And somewhere ahead, in the darkness of the Forbidden Zone, answers waited. Ji Young was 38 years old. She had spent her whole life studying dead things. Old bones. Ancient stones. Forgotten cities. She was a Zen archaeologist, a scientist who studied the ruins of alien civilizations. But she had started her career studying human ruins. The caves of Lascaux. The temples of Angkor. The strange circles of Stonehenge. Now she wondered if those old human places held secrets no one had imagined. The door behind her opened. Captain Yoon Hana walked in. She looked tired. She always looked tired now. "We enter the Forbidden Zone in 6 hours," Hana said. "The crew is nervous." Ji Young nodded. "I heard Krell talking to the others. He thinks humans are hiding something. He's not wrong." Ji Young turned to face the captain. "How much do you know? How much did Earth tell you?" Hana was quiet for a moment. Enough to be afraid. Not enough to understand. They stood together in silence. The stars continued to pass Dot in the ship's common room. The research team gathered for their final briefing before entering the zone. Ji Young looked at the faces around her. 6 humans. 4 aliens. Scientist Krell sat in the corner. He was a reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes. His people had been spacefaring for 90,000 years. He watched the humans with suspicion. Navigator Plix perched on a high stool. She was avian, with bright blue feathers and quick movements. Her species was younger than Krell's, only 30,000 years in space. But she was friendlier than most aliens Ji Young had met. "The Forbidden Zone," Plix said, ruffling her feathers. "My grandmother told me stories about this place. She said the precursors lived here before they ascended to a higher form of existence." Krell made a hissing sound. "Children's tales. The precursors are myth. Whatever built those ruins was simply a species that died long ago. Then why was the zone forbidden?" Plix asked. No one answered. Ji Young stood and activated the holographic display. Images of the dead world filled the air. Gray mountains. Empty seas turned to dust. And the ruins. Always the ruins. "Based on initial scans," Ji Young said, "these structures are approximately 65,000 years old. That makes them older than any confirmed civilization in the galactic record." Krell's yellow eyes narrowed. "The Dominion has records going back 90,000 years. Nothing older exists. Nothing you know about," Ji Young said quietly. The room went still. Krell rose from his seat, his scales bristling. "What are you saying, human? Do you think your infant species knows something we do not?" Hana stepped forward. "Dr. Park is simply presenting the data. Please, let her continue." But Krell would not be calmed. He walked toward Ji Young, his claws clicking on the metal floor. "I have watched your kind since you joined the council. You ask too many questions. You look at old things with hungry eyes. Now your government demanded to lead this expedition. Why? What do humans want with precursor ruins?" Ji Young held her ground. She had faced angry professors, jealous rivals, and dangerous dig sites. One angry lizard did not frighten her. "I study the past," she said. "That is all." Krell stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away. The briefing continued. The detention remained. Later, in the privacy of her cabin, Ji Young studied the symbols from the ruins. She had downloaded every image the probes had captured. She spread them across her screen and compared them to files she had brought from Earth. The files showed cave paintings. Human cave paintings from sites across the world. France, Spain, Indonesia, Australia. Some were 30,000 years old. Some were even older. The symbols matched, not perfectly. 65,000 years of drift had changed them. But the basic forms were the same. A circle with rays. 2 lines crossing. A spiral that meant water or time or both. Ji Young's hands trembled as she worked. She had spent her life believing that human civilization began with the first farms, the first cities, the first written words. Everything before that was called prehistory, a time of simple hunters and cave painters. But these symbols suggested something else. They suggested that humans had once known much more, and then forgotten. A knock at her door made her jump. Hana entered without waiting. "You found something," Hana said. It was not a question. Ji Young showed her the comparisons. Symbol by symbol, line by line. These ruins were not built by aliens, Ji Young said. Her voice shook. They were built by humans. Hana sat down heavily. Earth suspected. That is why they sent us. But suspicion and proof are different things. How is this possible? 65,000 years ago, humans were supposed to be living in caves. We had not even spread across the whole Earth yet. That is what we were taught, Hana said. But what if we were taught wrong? The ship shuddered. They had entered the forbidden zone. Ji Young felt something change in the air. The stars outside seemed dimmer. The silence seemed deeper. They spent the next 12 hours approaching the dead world. Ji Young barely slept. She kept studying the symbols, finding more matches, more impossible connections. When the ship finally entered orbit, the whole crew gathered at the observation windows. The dead world filled the sky below them, gray and brown and lifeless. But the ruins caught the light of the distant sun and seemed to glow. Towers, domes, roads that stretched across the empty landscape. Impossible, Krell whispered. The scale, the complexity. This was no primitive colony. This was a capital, a center of power. Plix's feathers stood on end. Who were these people? Where did they go? Ji Young looked at the ruins. She saw the curves she had noticed in the hologram. She saw the proportions she had sensed from the start. Everything was built for beings of a certain height, a certain shape. 2 arms, 2 legs, a specific distance between the eyes, human proportions. The landing team assembled in the shuttle bay. Ji Young checked her equipment. Scanner, sample containers, recording devices. Her hands were steady now. The shock had passed. Only curiosity remained. Hana walked beside her as they boarded the shuttle. Are you ready? The captain asked. Ji Young thought about everything she had believed about human history. About the cave painters she had admired since childhood. About the slow, painful climb from simple tools to space travel. All of it might be wrong. No, she said honestly. But I need to know the truth. The shuttle dropped toward the surface. The ruins grew larger, more detailed. Ji Young saw windows in the towers, doors sized for human bodies, streets wide enough for crowds. And everywhere, the symbols, written on walls, carved into stone, painted on surfaces that had survived 65,000 years of silence. The shuttle landed in what might have been a plaza. Dust rose around them and then settled. Through the window, Ji Young saw a building larger than any she had seen before. Its doors stood open. Waiting. She turned to Hana. We built this, Ji Young said. Humans built this. The captain nodded slowly. Her face was pale. Yes, Hana said. And now we need to find out why we forgot. The air inside the ruins tasted old. Dr. Park Ji Young breathed through her mask and tried not to think about how long this place had been waiting. 65,000 years. That was longer than modern humans had existed on Earth, or so she had always believed. The team moved through a hallway that stretched into darkness. Their lights cut through the dust like bright swords. The walls around them were covered with pictures. Stories told in paint and stone. Ji Young stopped at the first major painting. Her heart froze. The picture showed humans. There was no doubt. Men and women with faces like her own. They wore strange clothes. They held tools she did not recognize. But they were human. And they were standing on different worlds. The painting showed them on planets with 2 suns, 3 moons, oceans of purple and skies of green. This is impossible, Krell said behind her. His voice had lost its usual pride. Humans are the youngest species in the council. Your first satellite launched only centuries ago. Ji Young said nothing. She kept walking, Sergeant Beek Sung-ho moved at the front of the group. He was 34 years old, with broad shoulders and careful eyes. His job was to keep everyone safe. But how could he protect them from truth? "Dr. Park," Sung-ho called out. "You need to see this." The hallway opened into a massive chamber. Ji-young looked up and saw a ceiling so high it vanished into shadow. The walls curved around them like the inside of a great egg, and every surface was covered with murals. She walked forward slowly. Her boots left prints in dust that had not been disturbed for thousands of generations. The murals told a story. She read them like a book, moving from left to right, following the pictures as they unfolded. The first section showed humans on Earth, but not the Earth Gi-young knew. This Earth had cities that touched the clouds, ships that flew between continents, technology that seemed like magic. The second section showed humans leaving Earth, thousands of ships, millions of people. They spread across the stars like seeds in the wind. The third section showed the human empire at its height. Worlds without number. Species that lived beside humans as friends and allies. Peace and prosperity stretching across the galaxy. Ji-young felt tears on her cheeks. She had spent her life studying human history. She had believed she knew the story. Small groups of hunters. Slow growth. Painful progress. The climb from caves to cities over thousands of years, thought it was all wrong. Humans had already made that climb once before, and they had climbed much higher than anyone imagined. "Councilor Myra has sent a shuttle," Sung-ho announced. "Ambassador Kang is coming down. He says it is time." Ji-young did not understand. Time for what? She kept studying the murals while they waited. The fourth section showed something troubling. The human ships had changed. They were larger now, armed with weapons. The expressions on the painted faces had shifted from joy to fear. Something had gone wrong. The shuttle landed outside. Ji-young heard footsteps approaching. Ambassador Kang Tae-sung entered the chamber with Captain Yoon-han-ah at his side. Krell moved toward them immediately. His scales were bright with anger. "Ambassador, your species has deceived the entire council. These ruins prove that humans are not young at all. You have hidden your true history." "Why?" Tae-sung looked at the murals. His old face showed no surprise. "Only sadness, because the truth is dangerous," he said quietly. "Dangerous to your power?" Krell demanded. "Dangerous to your plans?" "Dangerous to everyone." Tae-sung walked to the center of the chamber. He looked small beneath the towering walls. But when he spoke, his voice filled the space. "What I am about to tell you is known only to a few humans. The leaders of Earth, certain scientists, people who guard our oldest secrets. Even most humans do not know this truth." He took a deep breath. "Humanity is not young. We are old. We are the oldest. Over 70,000 years ago, humans ruled an empire that stretched across this galaxy and into others. We had technology that could move stars, weapons that could break planets, knowledge that would seem like the dreams of gods." Silence filled the chamber. "We called ourselves the first because we were. The first species to achieve true spaceflight. The first to spread beyond our home world. The first to touch the spaces between galaxies." He pointed at the murals. "Those other species you see in these pictures? We found them on primitive worlds, living in trees, swimming in simple seas. We helped them grow. We taught them to think, to build, to dream of the stars." Krell stepped backward. His yellow eyes were wide. "The Dominion," he whispered. "You are saying humans created the Dominion?" "Created, uplifted, guided, call it what you wish. Most of the species in the Galactic Council today exist because humans helped them become more than they were. Plix made a soft sound of distress. Her feathers lay flat against her body. My people's legends say we were given fire by beings from the sky. Beings who looked like you. Tae-soon nodded slowly. Many species have such legends. They are memories of the truth. Dim memories. But real. Ji-young found her voice. What happened? Why did we fall? Why did we forget? Tae-sung's face grew dark. He walked to the fifth section of murals. Ji-young had not reached this part yet. Now she saw why he looked so troubled. The pictures showed darkness. Not the darkness of space. Something else. Something that did not belong in normal reality. Shapes that hurt to look at. Colors that should not exist. We grew proud, Tae-soon said. We believed nothing could stop us. So we reached further than we should have. We explored the spaces between galaxies. The void. The empty places where nothing should live. He touched the wall gently. We found something there. Or it found us. We never knew what it truly was. Our best scientists could not understand it. Our greatest weapons could not destroy it. It was not life as we knew it. It was something else. Something hungry. The next picture showed war. Human ships burning. Worlds dying. The empire falling apart piece by piece. We fought for 1,000 years. We lost everything. In the end, only a small number of humans survived. They fled back to Earth. They destroyed every piece of technology. They burned every record. They buried every memory of what we had been. Why? Seung-ho asked. His voice was rough with emotion. Because the enemy was still out there. Still hunting us. If we became primitive again, if we hid among the stars like one more simple species, perhaps it would forget about us. Perhaps it would move on to other prey. Tae-soon turned to face them all. The survivors made a choice. They gave up everything to save what remained of humanity. They went back to caves. They started over. They let themselves forget. Ji-young looked at the murals again. She saw the final pictures now. Humans without technology. Humans painting on cave walls. Humans beginning the long climb all over again. The symbols, she said. The cave paintings. They were not art. They were messages. Yes, the survivors left warnings for future generations. But over thousands of years, the meaning was lost. The symbols became decoration. The truth became legend. And the legend was forgotten. A sound made them all turn. Navigator Plix had activated her communicator. Her face was pale beneath her feathers. Councilor Myra's ship has detected something, she said. Something responding to our signals. Something coming toward this system. Ji-young felt cold spread through her body. Datsun-ho moved to a window and looked up at the sky. Where? Hana demanded. Plix's voice shook. From the void. From the space between galaxies. Ambassador, it knows we are here. Tae-soon closed his eyes. 65,000 years, he said softly. And they still remember. The vault door had not moved in 65,000 years. It stood at the end of the great chamber, a wall of black metal with a single word carved above it. Dr. Park Ji-young read the word twice. Once in the ancient symbols of the first human empire. Once in Korean, added later by hands she would never know. Warning. We need to open it, Captain Yoon-hana said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed fear. Ambassador Kang told us to wait for the council ships, Sergeant Baek Seung-ho replied. His hand rested on his weapon, though he knew a gun would not help against what was coming. The council ships are 3 hours away. Whatever is coming from the void will arrive in 2. We do not have time to wait. Ji-young stepped forward. Her fingers touched the cold metal of the door. She felt something hum beneath the surface. Power. After all these thousands of years, something inside still worked. There must be a way to open it, she said. The first empire would not have left a locked door without a key. She searched the surface. Her lights moved across patterns she did not understand. Then she found it. A small panel at the center of the door. It held a simple symbol. A hand. Ji Young pressed her palm against the panel. Light swept across her skin. She felt warmth and then cold. A sound came from deep within the wall. Gears turning. Systems waking up. The door opened. Human genetic code, Sung-ho said with wonder. The key is us. They entered the vault together. The room inside was smaller than the chamber outside, but it felt more important. Shelves lined the walls. Each shelf held objects Jing could not identify. Devices, tools, records preserved in crystal and light. At the center stood a pedestal. On the pedestal sat a single device, no larger than a book. Do not touch anything, Hana warned. But Ji Young was already moving toward the pedestal. She could not help herself. She needed to know. Her hand reached for the device. The moment she touched it, the room came alive. Holographic images filled the air. A woman appeared before them. She was human, old. Her face carried the weight of terrible knowledge. She wore clothes Ji Young had only seen in the murals. The uniform of the first human empire. If you are watching this, the woman said, then the enemy has found us again. The hologram shifted. It showed images that made Ji Young's stomach twist. Space, but wrong. Colors that hurt. Shapes that did not follow the rules of normal physics. We called them the Hollow. We gave them a name because we could not understand what they truly were. They came from beyond, from the spaces between galaxies where nothing should exist. We do not know if they were alive. We do not know if they could think. We only know that they were hungry. More images. Human ships burning. Worlds cracking open. People running, screaming, dying. Our empire stretched across 10,000 worlds when the Hollow first appeared. Within 300 years, we had lost half our territory. Within 500 years, we had lost 90%. The Hollow did not conquer. They consumed. Every world they touched became empty. Not destroyed. Empty. As if everything that had ever lived there had simply stopped existing. Ji Young felt tears on her face. She was watching her own species die. A death that happened before recorded history began. We tried everything. We built weapons that could crack moons. We created shields that could stop stars. Nothing worked. The Hollow were not made of matter we understood. They existed partly in our space and partly somewhere else. Our attacks passed through them like light through water. The woman's face filled with pain. In the end, we found only one weapon that hurt them. A frequency. A pattern of energy that disrupted whatever they were made of. We discovered it by accident. A ship broadcasting an emergency signal made the Hollow retreat. We studied the effect. We learned to reproduce it. We turned the frequency into a weapon. The hologram showed human ships broadcasting waves of light. The Hollow screamed, or made sounds that felt like screams. They pulled back. They fled, but it was not enough. The frequency wounded them, but it could not destroy them. And there were so many. For every Hollow we drove back, 1,000 more came. We were dying slowly instead of quickly. That was all. The woman paused. Her eyes seemed to look directly at Ji Young. So we made a choice. We could not defeat the Hollow, but we could make them forget us. We destroyed our own empire. Every ship, every station, every piece of technology. We erased ourselves from the stars. The survivors returned to Earth and began again. We hoped that if we became primitive enough, the Hollow would lose interest. We hoped they would move on to other prey. The hologram flickered. This vault contains everything we saved. The frequency weapon. Records of the Hollow. Technology that might help our descendants fight back if the enemy ever returns. We hid it here, on this dead world, in the Forbidden Zone. We told all the species we had uplifted to never enter this region. We hoped the warning would last. The woman smiled sadly. If you are watching this, the warning failed. I am sorry. I am sorry we could not protect you better. I am sorry we had to forget. But know this, you are not alone. You carry within you the blood of an empire that once ruled the stars. You have fought this enemy before. You can fight them again. The hologram faded. Silence filled the vault. Sungho spoke first. The frequency weapon. Is it here? Ji Young searched the shelves. She found crystals that held data. She found devices that might be tools or weapons. Then she found something that made her stop. A small container held a sample of human blood. Ancient blood. Preserved somehow across the vast gulf of time. A label on the container read, "The signal is in us." It always was. We are the weapon. What does that mean? Hana asked before Ji Young could answer. The vault shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. A sound came from outside. A sound like nothing she had ever heard. It was not a roar or a scream. It was an absence of sound. A hole in the world where noise should be. They ran back to the main chamber. Through the windows, Ji Young saw the sky. It was wrong. Something hung above the dead world. It was larger than a ship. Larger than a station. It looked like a tear in space itself. Edges that flickered between existence and nothing. Colors that made her eyes water. The hollow, Sungho whispered. Counselor Myra's voice crackled through their communicators. All vessels, this is High Counselor Myra. We have arrived with the Council fleet. We are engaging the unknown entity. All ground teams, prepare for immediate. The transmission cut off. Through the window, Ji Young saw flashes of light. Council ships firing weapons, missiles, energy beams. Things that should destroy anything they touched. The hollow did not react. The attacks passed through it like shadows through smoke. Then it struck back. A council ship vanished. Not exploded. Not destroyed. Just gone. One moment it was there. The next moment it was not. As if it had never existed. No, Hana said. No. More ships vanished. The council fleet broke formation. Ships tried to run. The hollow was everywhere. It was nowhere. It did not move like normal things moved. Ji Young watched species she had spent her life studying die. Krell's people. Plix's people. Dozens of others. Ships disappearing one by one. She thought about the vault. The message. The weapon. The signal is in us. Captain Hana, Ji Young said. Her voice was strange, calm. We need to contact the human ships. I know how to fight them. Hana turned to her. Hope and desperation filled her eyes. What do you need? Ji Young held up the container of ancient blood. I need to know what is in our blood that was not there before. The First Empire found the weapon by accident. They put it in themselves. They made humanity into the weapon. And they passed it down to every human who ever lived after. Outside, another ship vanished. We just need to find out how to turn it on. The human ships were small. Compared to the great vessels of the Council fleet, they looked like toys. Dr. Park Ji Young counted 12 of them. 12 ships against something that had destroyed an empire of 10,000 worlds. But these ships were not. Running Captain Yoon Hana stood at the command station of the Horizon's Edge. Her hands moved across controls as she opened a channel to all human vessels. This is Captain Yoon. All human ships form on my position. We are moving to intercept. Static filled the air. Then a voice came through. Admiral Cho from the cruiser Defiance. Captain Yoon, we have received your data package. The frequency is being loaded into our broadcast systems now. Are you certain this will work? Hana looked at Ji Young. The scientist nodded slowly. She was not certain, but she believed. It will work, Hana said. It has to. Outside the window, the Council fleet was dying. Ships vanished one after another. The Hollow moved through space like a nightmare given form. It did not chase. It did not hunt. It simply existed, and everything it touched stopped existing. High Counselor Mira's voice cut through the chaos. Human vessels, what are you doing? Fall back. Your ships cannot withstand this enemy. Hana did not answer. She guided the horizon's edge forward. The other human ships followed. A small line of silver against an endless dark. Ambassador Kang Tae-sung stood at the center of the bridge. He was old, tired, but his voice carried across the communication channels with strength Ji Young had not heard before. Attention all Council vessels. This is Ambassador Kang Tae-sung of Earth. Fall back behind the human formation. Do it now. You cannot give us orders, human. The Volek Prime shouted. You are the youngest species. You have no authority here. We are not the youngest, Tae-sung said. We are the oldest. The first. And this enemy is ours. We have fought it before. We will fight it again. Silence on all channels. Then slowly the surviving Council ships began to move. They pulled back. They formed lines behind the human vessels. Ji Young watched the Hollow approach. It was close now. She could see details that made her stomach turn. Eyes that were not eyes. Mouths that were not mouths. Spaces inside it that went on forever. The frequency is ready, Sung-ho reported from his station. Broadcasting on your command. Hana turned to Ji Young. Dr. Park, you found this. You should give the order. Ji Young's hand shook. She thought about the woman in the hologram. She thought about the survivors who had given up everything to protect the future. She thought about cave painters leaving messages that would not be understood for 60,000 years. They had carried this weapon inside them all along. Every human who ever lived. Every child. Every elder. The signal was written into their blood. The First Empire had put it there as a last gift to their descendants. All it needed was the right technology to amplify it, to broadcast it across space, to turn one human voice into a weapon that could wound something from beyond reality. Now, Ji Young said, the human ships broadcast together. Not just electromagnetic signals. Something deeper. A pattern that lived in human cells. A frequency that only humans could produce. The Hollow screamed. Ji Young had never heard anything like it. It was not sound. It was feeling. Pain and rage and confusion rippling through space. The Hollow twisted. Its impossible body flickered. Parts of it became solid. Other parts became transparent. It is working, Sung-ho shouted. Keep broadcasting. The human ships pushed forward. Their signals overlapped, strengthened. The frequency became a wall of force that the Hollow could not ignore. For a moment, Ji Young thought they would win. She thought 12 small ships would drive back an enemy that had destroyed an empire. Then the Hollow fought back. A tendril of nothing lashed out. It struck the nearest human ship. The vessel flickered, but did not vanish. The signal protected it somehow, but alarms screamed across the communication channels. Hull breach on the Defiance. Engineering is gone on the Soul. We cannot maintain the broadcast much longer. Hana's face was pale, but her voice stayed calm. All ships, increase power to broadcast systems. Everything you have. Captain, if we push the systems any harder, they will burn out. We will lose the frequency. Then we burn them out. Ji Young understood. The human ships were going to sacrifice themselves. They were going to burn every system they had to hurt the Hollow as much as possible. She thought about the First Empire. They had made the same choice. They had destroyed themselves to wound the enemy. It had worked. The Hollow had retreated for 65,000 years, but that was not good enough. Not anymore. Wait, Ji Young said. She grabbed Hana's arm. The message in the vault. The signal is in us. Not in our ships. In us. Hana stared at her. What are you saying? The ships are just amplifiers. The real weapon is human beings. If we could broadcast directly from humans, not from machines. Sung Ho's eyes went wide. Medical systems. Every human on every ship has a medical implant. We could use those to broadcast the signal directly from our bodies. Hana did not hesitate. Do it. The order went out to all human ships. Medical officers activated implants that had been designed to monitor health. Now they would serve a different purpose. Ji Young felt something warm in her chest, in her blood, in her bones. A vibration that had always been there, waiting to be awakened. The gift of her ancestors. Every human in the fleet felt it. Thousands of people. Thousands of signals. All broadcasting together. The effect was immediate. The Hollow recoiled. Not just wounded now, afraid. Ji Young could feel its fear. After 65,000 years of hunting through the void, it had found its old enemy again. And humanity had learned new tricks. The human ships moved forward. Their signal blazed like a sun. The Hollow tried to flee. It turned toward the gap between galaxies. The dark space it had come from. But the humans did not stop. They chased it. 12 small ships and thousands of broadcasting humans, driving the Hollow back into the void. Further and further until it crossed some invisible line and vanished. Gone. For now. The silence that followed was the loudest thing Ji Young had ever heard. Then the communications filled with voices. Council species calling out. Confused, frightened. But alive. High Counselor Myra's voice rose above the others. Her ship was damaged but still functional. She spoke slowly, as if forming words for the first time. Human vessels. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I must ask, what just happened? Hana looked at Tae-sung. The old ambassador nodded. We protected you, Hana said simply. That is what we do, but why? Myra asked. After how the Council treated your species. After we called you children. After we mocked your short history. Why did you save us? Hana thought for a long moment. Ji Young watched her captain struggle with the answer. Finally, Hana spoke. Because we remember what happens when we only protect ourselves. Our ancestors burned a galaxy trying to survive alone. They destroyed their own empire. They erased their own history. They forgot who they were. And still the enemy came back. She looked at the stars. So many stars. So many worlds. So many species that would have died today without help. This time, we will do it differently. This time, we protect everyone. Not just humans. Everyone. The Council fleet gathered around the human ships. Species that had laughed at humanity now looked at them with new eyes. Vorlek Prime spoke. His voice had lost all arrogance. We were wrong. We looked at your short recorded history and thought we knew what you were. We did not realize that your history began long before ours. That you were old when our species was still learning to crawl. Tae-sung smiled. It was a sad smile, but also proud. We forgot too, he said. For 65,000 years, we forgot who we were. Perhaps that was necessary. Perhaps we needed to become young again to learn what we did wrong the first time. Counselor Myra moved closer to the glass of her tank. Her silver eyes studied the human ships. What happens now? She asked. Hana looked at Ji Young. The scientist thought about everything she had learned. About the First Empire. About the fall. About the long sleep that followed. Now we prepare, Ji Young said. The hollow is not destroyed, only driven back. It will return someday. Maybe not in our lifetime. Maybe not for another 1,000 years. But it will return. She stood straighter. She felt the signal in her blood. The gift of her ancestors. And when it does, we will be ready. All of us. Together. The council voted that day. Humanity was no longer the youngest member. They were given a new title. One that had not been used in galactic history. The eldest. The protectors. The species that remembered. What others had forgotten. Ji Young stood at the observation window of the horizon's edge and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, in the void between galaxies, the hollow waited. But so did humanity. The oldest species. The first children of the stars. And this time, they were not alone.